YouTube. And check 1, 2. Okie dokie. We are streaming on YouTube, and we can call this the kickoff for the MBTA Rider Oversight Committee meeting for Tuesday, October 22. There's the right agenda on the screen now. And I am Stefan Wunsch. I'm one of the two co-chairs of the Rider Oversight Committee, along with Wig Zamor. Wig, do you want to just say hi very quickly, just even to make sure that you're unmuting? We can hear you for anything, just for a quick thing.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, we heard you that time. I'm glad to have all three of you gents here. Len, want to say hi? More of a audio check. Also introduce yourself.
Sure. Leonard Diggins, chair of the Capital Investment Finance Subcommittee.
Thank you very much. And Craig, want to just say a quick hi, introduce yourself? More like an audio check, but
Sure.
please do.
Craig Laskowski, public member.
Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to keep an eye, as always, on the YouTube window for anyone else who comes in, who is watching, who might put anything in the chat. We're a little bit behind because I was for folks who are watching, we got a little bit of a late start, but that's on me because I was getting set up for the demo on the wayfinding system at North Station, which is coming up in the second half of the meeting, unless we jump to it sooner. I'm glad, Wig. I'm glad you're able to see my little practice there in case you do have to leave early, so at least you got an idea. If you do have to leave, Wig, this is right aimed at you. If you do have to leave before we actually cover the sort of the formal demo, let me know if you've got any questions, or you can type questions into the Zoom chat. And also, Craig, same for you. If you're not able to stay for the whole time, either alert me, or I don't know if you're near a computer, want to type in questions in the Zoom chat. But whatever floats your boat. I will make one last check for anyone with any public comments. It's just the four of us, so unless one of you gents wants to say something just under the auspices of public comment, we'll move into the subcommittee notes. Sound good?
Sure.
Excellent. So I will pull those into the screen now, and hopefully that's a decent font size. Would you like anyone want me to make it a little bigger, smaller?
A little larger, please.
A little larger. You got it. I might have to scroll it around a little bit. Yeah, tell you what, let me do this. I can make it fit that way, and then I'll make this window. There we go. I try to keep my eye on the number of panelists in the Zoom window at all times in case we have somebody from the public join the Zoom. But there we go. Much to Craig's delight, one of the first things that we mentioned on the in the subcommittee was that we now have the third rebuilt PCC trolley car in service on the Ashmont line. This was the one that Jonathan reminded us had rear-end collision damage and was originally thought to be just a parts source, but very happily some body work was able to be done. According to Jonathan, some pretty significant body work, frame, and structural repairs, and it's now back in service, rebuilt to the same all electronic. The name of the company doing the work just went right out of my head, but I guess that's not important right now. Just knowing that there's three and there's only a couple more to go. We talked quite a bit about costs, and one of the reference points was the cost comparisons in this particular APTA. There we are. Just this, I'm doing this mostly so other folks can see it. This is the page 7 that we reviewed and discussed quite a bit. I'm not going to go into all of the details that we reviewed in the subcommittee meeting, but it's notable the demand response is so, well, I mean, it's not surprising, but it's notable that demand response, aka the ride, is so significantly higher priced per trip. Again, not a surprise, but notable. I think what was a little bit of a surprise was the comparisons of light rail to heavy rail to commuter rail. Again, I'm not going to go into all the discussions that we had, but as you can see from this slide, and I'll put the link into the Zoom chat, and I will also put that same link into the YouTube chat for posterity. Anyone want to add anything in particular about this expense mode comparison? Expenses by mode comparison? Okay. We also talked about some of the more fine details about the infrastructure costs. I mean, you can see my parenthetical comment here. Clearly, bus is cheaper for infrastructure costs, which is why the vast majority of trolley cars throughout the U.S. are gone, replaced by rubber-wheeled buses. It's just plain old infrastructure. But, pardon me. We did talk about some of the details about electric versus carbon-fueled buses. It seems like there's more information to be gathered about what is the build out and capital for all electric versus all diesel. I mean, presumably all diesel. I doubt any agencies are using gasoline. But I personally don't know enough about what are the capital infrastructure costs for building out an all electric bus system. I'll just leave it at that, though. And then finally, the costs of infrastructure for light rail versus commuter rail, and as you can see my parenthetical note here, the number of people being served versus how long a trip it is are all factors that go into the cost per rides. I guess that's actually not necessarily under the infrastructure, so I guess that's a bit of a header mistake on my notes there. But unless anyone wants to add anything to that, I'll just highlight this next piece, which I thought was, I've forgotten who in the subcommittee pointed this out, but I think that's a really important and great summary question, and I'm just going to read it. What is it worth to get people out of their cars? I think that's a great and very important question. What's it worth? If we want to get people out of the cars, out of their cars and into public mass transit, what's it worth to us, to all of us? I'll speed ahead a little bit because the discussion of commuter rail, regional rail, I think is not worth diving into now. But by all means, jump in and say if you want to add something about that. The cost of a commute is likely for a lot of people. We were talking about how the cost of a commute also likely includes the non-tangibles, the air quotes cost of the experience, like the amenities, the crowding, the convenience, which, more than just a dollar cost, the cost to your sanity if it's not a comfortable, easy commute, that kind of thing. Those are not necessarily easy to measure or even measured at all. I don't know if we know. Then we got into operational stuff. The the discussion of the October 1st derailment. Oh, I will mention on Green Line, just outside of North Station. Sorry, Leechmere, not North Station. I see your question in the chat, Wig, and you said, oh, right, how to roadway right, exactly. Do you want to elaborate on that, Wig? I know you're feeling like you can't speak because it's noisy, but feel free if you want. Okay, but that's noted. Yeah, how do bus lanes change the cost for on road? Yes, absolutely. I hadn't even thought of that until just now. Right. Dedicated bus lanes are an infrastructure cost to implement, maintain, and then also provide a benefit. So is that cost reflected? I'm not sure what I'm trying to say right now, but yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Wig, thank you. The cost, explicit or implicit, for bus lanes. Yeah. Okay. Links here for some of the coverage of the of that derailment. We were wondering also, why did it take? I think it was a full day outage on the October 2nd. Right? Yes, because the derailment happened on Tuesday the 1st. Wednesday the 2nd was no service. I believe it was north of North Station, or is that west of North Station? And we're just wondering why. What is it that took the NTSB from the incident time of around 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, plus the normal MBTA return to service after an incident, all the way to Thursday morning? What goes into that kind of investigation? Are there considerations given to the impact on the riders by the federal folks? Is the NTSB keeping in mind every minute that we're taking for our investigation, this impacts riders? I don't know if we know. I don't know if we could find out, but that's a scope of impact that's beyond MBTA. Needless to say, we don't have any oversight or any role in examining the NTSB, but if there's some streamlining that could be done to better restore service for MBTA riders, maybe we can speak up about that. Just a fun tidbit. I personally didn't know this, and I found this to be very interesting from Jonathan. The Boston Elevated Railway, one of the precursor agencies or companies, I guess, to the MBTA, has had a standard of the outbound destination first. So, as Jonathan pointed out, the official name of the Mattapan high-speed line route is Mattapan-Ashmont, because Mattapan is the destination. It's not Ashmont-Mattapan officially. It's Mattapan-Ashmont, going back to when it was first opened. That was the original Boston Elevated Railway naming scheme. We mentioned, maybe a little bit in passing, Craig. Well, any of you three gents, let me know if I'm glossing over anything, talking about the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Milton, on Milton's refusal so far to go along with the MBTA Communities Act. The first hearing was yesterday, relative to when we had this committee meeting. We had this committee meeting on the 8th. That first hearing about Milton had just happened the day before. I believe that was just opening statements. Craig, anything that you want to add since we've got you here about anything new, perhaps, on Commonwealth versus Milton?
No, I don't have any updates on my side. I think we're waiting. It was going to be before the end of the year. We were expected to hear something, but I think it's going to be we're a good 6 weeks out. Oh, we're still a few weeks out, I should say.
Yep, fair enough. Yep, I'm sure you'll probably be one of the first to hear about it, being a Milton resident, and I'm sure you'll let us know. We did talk about the new upcoming, just in test, MBTA app I personally was very surprised to hear that the MBTA has developed and is testing their own mobile app when it was 4 or 5 years ago, the MBTA said, we will not do any app development ever again. It's just not worth it. We don't want to take on that burden of responsibility for in-house development of mobile technology apps. Third parties can do that better, more nimble. I mean, they were very adamant at the time. Okay, things change. There's new leadership at the MBTA. Phil Eng may have put out a dictum saying no. At the MTA in New York, I'm sort of paraphrasing what Phil Eng might be thinking. This is speculation, but maybe Phil Eng from his time at MTA said, no, it's not that hard to do a mobile app. We did it in New York. Here's what you do. So, I mean, I am optimistic that the current MBTA leadership thinks it's that way. Thinks that it is worth it. It's reasonable to do it in house. I'm hoping that it's not going to be a money pit. I'm about to say boondoggle, but no, that's being too negative. No, I'm optimistic about the new MBTA authored app, and I did try it out. It's pretty minimalist right now, but it was solid. Right. Speculation amongst us that maybe the new MBTA mobile app will be part of unified fare payment management, putting money onto your card. We'll see. Right. Here's the question right. This is pretty much what I was just saying. Question being, is it really important to have an in-house development team? Is that really part of the core mission of a transit agency? I mean, as we understand it, core service delivery for a transit agency, MBTA in particular, is safe, reliable, affordable transportation for all. Is a mobile app part of that mandate? Could be. Seemed like we weren't sure, but if the MBTA management says that it is, okay. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Oh yeah, and that's sort of a side question. Does the MBTA, without having a mobile app of their own, branded as an MBTA mobile app, does the MBTA feel like a second-class citizen? Is there a bit of a marketing effort to it? Is there a bit of pride that the MBTA is trying to bring out? Hey, we have our own mobile app. That could be valid if you come at it from a marketing standpoint. We talked about operations of the mobile card, mobile phone tap to pay. Apparently, it's a boatload of small individual charges, and it is, I think it might have been you, Craig, who pointed out, completely expected, but makes it a nightmare to audit your own credit card statement because am I correct, Craig? There's no information about where you were for a particular transaction. It just says MBTA transaction and the dollar value.
I think we can walk back the word nightmare. I think it just makes it a bit of a challenge to have a bunch of individual dollar amounts.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, okay, yeah, I retract saying nightmare. Thank you. But difficult. I will say perhaps more difficult than it would need to be. But maybe the MBTA is also working on a way of pulling up their own website for doing an audit of your transactions. If you can't audit it from your credit card, maybe that's in the works for the MBTA's payment website. We'll have to see. I mentioned in the subcommittee the Navalens Go. That's something I'm going to demo in a little while in this meeting. Quite spectacular. And then we wrapped up, the last specific topic that I captured in the notes was the operational aspect of the Fall River, New Bedford commuter rail expansion, which, to my surprise, Jonathan pointed out, is going to include half of all trains going to Fall River and New Bedford only being like ping pong shuttles between Fall River or New Bedford and East Taunton. In other words, every other train going to or from Fall River will go to Boston, but every other train to or from Fall River will only go to East Taunton. If you want to continue, you have to transfer. Same thing for New Bedford. That, Jonathan told us, is entirely because of the bottleneck of single track in the old Colony line through the Dorchester area, where the tracks are pretty much squeezed out by the Southeast Expressway. Probably we will never in our lifetime see a double tracking of the old Colony where it's single tracked. What is that? That's basically from like JFK all the way down to beyond Braintree Station on the commuter rail, right? So at least for now, the advertised service plan for Fall River, New Bedford is lots of service, but every other train, if you want to continue into Boston or if you're going out of Boston to a south destination, East Taunton transfer. Thankfully, the East Taunton station, I don't know if you gents have seen it. The East Taunton station is spectacular, almost done. And then finally in the subcommittee, we talked about bus network redesign. It was wide-ranging.
Just to hit on that one real quick. Was that ever advertised, or was that ever talked about when they were discussing that commuter rail expansion? It feels odd to me that, like, after the fact, we're about to go live with this thing that should be celebratory, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, like in the fine print, there's a switch on half the run, or you have to make you have to do a what's the word I'm looking for? You have to do a transfer on half the trips. Don't pay no attention to the small wording. People are going to love it. They're going to love the switch because the station's fancy.
You've got a good point. I don't recall hearing that at all. It might have been something that wasn't known until they began to actually lay out the schedule.
I can't say. I mean, I'm sorry, Stefan. Please keep going.
Oh, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead, Len.
I can't say. I mean, because I have to admit, I never really read the South Coast Rail presentations very closely. So I mean, I think I have everything downloaded. I could go and see if they pointed that out. So I don't know.
I mean, I feel like we covered that. We had a few presentations on it, right? In terms of, and it was all about how the routing, right? How they had to do it. It kind of goes south, and then it's got to do that weird hard right across to connect over, like through the swampland. I'm forgetting that. I have a picture in my head of the exact details of the route. And I just don't remember that. How am I putting this? It's not like we never covered it. I just never remember it coming up, the idea like that half of them were going to be these just back and forth on that on the tail end of the line. I think I've always questioned the amount of ridership that we're going to take it anyway, all the way down there. So that, I mean, you're just adding another barrier to entry, and you're raising your level of difficulty here in terms of convincing folks to take it all the way into Boston.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my understanding, though, is that the train will be there. So all they need to do is just get off, and the connecting train will be there. So it's not like they get off and then they have to wait, for the train to come. So it is about as convenient a transfer as you can get.
Yep, I believe that's right. Yeah, I believe that's what Jonathan had told us. Because it's, of course, it's Fall River and New Bedford both coming up and joining into basically what becomes a trunk line. It's really a lot like Mattapan and Ashmont on the Red Line. If the Red Line trunk from Andrew all the way, the rest of it, north all the way to Alewife, couldn't handle double the capacity of either Ashmont or Braintree, there might be a similar kind of a thing on the Red Line, even today. But
if your cell job is it's just as wonderful as when trains have to deadhead into Andrew or into JFK UMass, and I have to switch trains. And then you're doing the opposite of what you're trying to do. You're trying to argue me this is no big deal, and you're making me think, oh, this is horrific. There's nothing worse than when you get to JFK UMass and they say this train is out of service. Please transfer over to the Ashmont line for service.
I hear you. I hear you, but I think the key point though is that I think, or at least I have the impression that the amount of service from Fall River and from New Bedford is going to be, and I wish I had a reference for this, but I believe it's actually going to be double what they originally expected. So, and I think that might be the reason. In other words, if it started off being one train, I'm just gonna just give you some round numbers just for speculation here for conversation. If it was going to be one train per hour from Fall River all the way to Boston, and somebody said, "Wait, that's not good enough. We need trains every half hour from Fall River to Boston." Somebody would have said, "Oh, well, wait, we can't do double that amount through Old Colony where it's single tracked. So we'll do every half hour from Fall River to East Taunton and every half hour from New Bedford all the way to Boston via East Taunton, where the people who are coming in from Fall River get picked up." I mean, that's educated guess on my part, but it seems like a way of doubling the service for and every other train passenger will make a transfer that's, if we understand it right, just right across the platform. So double the service for a minor transfer for half the people.
Yeah, I mean it's better than what they have me for the Rockport Newbury commuter rail line where it's there. I mean you don't have that little connection happening. I guess it would be at Gloucester. No, it would be at North Beverly or something in that area.
Beverly. Yeah. Beverly's the last stop on the sort of the trunk of Newburyport Rockport.
Right.
Right, that's a good point. But the Newburyport Rockport also, no, you're right. No, Newburyport Rockport is every half hour on the clock face, with a little bit more during peak hours, but north of Beverly, because it's a split. You're right. That turns into basically every hour, I think. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but yeah.
So
yeah. But Craig, oh, sorry, Len, go ahead.
No, I'd say, well, I would say, give me what they're getting down there, So,
So
it's like, that's nice,
Yeah, but Craig, I don't want to diminish your point in any way, because it's absolutely a valid point that people have probably been expecting single seat ride no matter what the train is, and this is a change to it. So yeah, I don't want to diminish what you're saying.
I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, carry on.
Right. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is the end of the notes from the combined subcommittees. Thank you very much for indulging me on that amount of detail going through it. Wig, how are we doing for your time, Wig? Are you with us until 6, or you still good? Okay, great. That's good news.
So one thing I want to mention before people go, for November and December, we're just having one meeting.
Yep.
Each month, and that's going to be on the second Tuesday of the month. Okay.
Okay. Right. That sounds good. Yeah, because of the holidays.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that sounds good. Then with no conflicts for trying to work around. Yep. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
We're maybe 15 minutes off of the published agenda, which, again, not a big deal. It's just the the four of us here. I don't see anyone looking at YouTube right now. Um, Len, did you want me to pull up any recent presentations to the MBTA board? Because I admit I have not looked at them since the last
There's really been
MBTA board meeting.
there's been nothing new since our last our meeting 2 weeks ago. And I was pointing out that the meetings for October, the subcommittee meetings were canceled, so it's not surprising. There's nothing new. I was kind of going through the GM's presentation again, and I was just trying to understand something regarding I think it's the means tested fares. I don't know what IERF means. Let me see if I can pull up that deck again. I think I might have
All right. Oh, well, I'll
overwritten.
add one thing, which is
Yeah,
it's not exactly presentation to the board, and we don't have to do it now. We could just do it later, or even hold it until the next combined subcommittee. But I did attend. Oh, and I think you did too, Len. I think we both attended the virtual meeting on the track improvement program,
yeah.
and I took screenshots from the five most um, I thought vital slides. So if we want to tonight, either now or later in this meeting, or postpone till the subcommittees in November, I could pull up those slides, summarize it for Craig, who's just on the phone. Any thoughts about that?
All right, why don't you go ahead and do it now?
Okay, cool. I will do that right now. This is coming from the October 1st MBTA virtual meeting about the ongoing major track work. Hopefully, you can see this uh, screen grab that I've brought in here. Craig, for your benefit, this is a chart that shows the red, orange, blue, green, and Mattapan lines with columns for the number of speed restrictions as of the beginning of the project. And then, no, I'm sorry, not at the beginning of the project, as of September 30th. So that's like a recap. That's where we are now, essentially, since this meeting was October 1st, right? So this data in this chart is from September 30th. The total amount of feet of track replaced, they give as 740,000 feet of track replaced, which is quite astounding. For example, red line, 43 miles of track replaced. Orange line, 23 miles of track replaced. Blue line, 13 miles. Green line, 56 miles of track replaced. Um, the average age of the track, some of it was as much as 38 years old. Um, there were 365 signals involved in this work, and that and the final column, the very right column, tells us what the typical ridership is on a weekday, and that's the number of people that are going to be benefiting from these improvements. And if I go to the next slide here, this is speed restrictions.
I
Hopefully.
I have
Go
no.
ahead, Craig.
What's the? See, I just don't know in context whether 38 years old in terms of a piece of rail is old or new. Right? Like in abstract that sounds like a long time, but it's the Bourne and Sagamore bridges are 100 years old. So I don't know what the rail cars I get. I have a sense of how often you need to replace a rail car because a rail car is a piece of machinery that runs every day. Like I can compare it to a car and say to myself like, gosh, a 20-year-old car is a jalopy at this point. So the question is, I don't know in terms of something more like infrastructure, a hard piece of steel with a 38-year, like what did CSX do in terms of their airlines? Like how often do they replace track? What's the standard how old should track be? I guess I've never asked that question along this process.
That's a great point. I know a little bit about heavy rail from all the friends I have in commuter rail, and even I know some people who work on freight railroads. It all depends on the geometry, meaning the alignment, the layout of the track, how much wear and tear it gets. Like for example, curves. I mean, there's sections of track on curves that might only last a couple of years. Like the big curve in Harvard Square. As I understand it, that red line curve that's just on the Boston side of Harvard Square, that track has to be replaced far, far, far. Like, I mean, I don't want to say a number of like how much more often, but huge amounts more for curves versus straightaways. Um, the I think the age of the rails is not really the biggest issue. I think it's the underlying substructure. And if it gets rain, if there's dirt and silt coming in from groundwater, that will deteriorate the ties. If the drainage systems get clogged up, then water gets retained and the wooden ties will rot faster. So I guess no hard and fast rule that I know of, but for 38-year-old track, that's probably going to have a lot of speed restrictions, and I think we did see that there were. Oh yeah, I'm just looking at this chart. Right, there were still 26 speed restrictions on the orange line as of September 30, and that's in spite of there already having been 23 miles of track replaced.
I can look and see if I have some information on that. I mean, the MBTA does a asset management report, I mean, to the MPO on an annual basis. I mean, and I'll see if there are some numbers regarding, the target at least, I mean, for the age of the track. I'm not recalling anything. I mean, so I don't think they've called out the track specifically, but I can at least ask the people who put together that presentation, that report, me what numbers they um, use me for the track, if indeed that's part of what they report, respect to asset management to the MPO. But the short answer is correct, is I don't know.
Yeah, that would be great, Len.
Sure.
Um, okay, I'll just move quickly to the number of speed restrictions. Craig, on this particular slide, it's showing the November 24th, 2023 number of speed restrictions, and it's it's just a blur. There's so many speed restrictions across this, and at least on green line, a lot on blue line, they are 10 mile an hour or below speed restrictions. And on the right of this chart, it shows the speed restriction status as of September 30 of this year, and all of the speed restrictions in the green line above are gone. I mean, there was dozens and dozens of them as of November 2023, and on the green line, uh, on this map, there's really only a handful left at all on the green line, for example, and they're all in between Government Center and Haymarket.
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
Um,
Quick question.
yeah.
What were those? What do those blue dots mean? I think they're on
Oh,
the. I can't
11
tell
to
which.
20.
Can't
Yeah.
tell which line they're.
The blue dots are on the green line, Riverside,
Yeah.
and those are 11 to 24 mile an hour restrictions.
Uh, where is
Yeah.
there a
So,
legend?
yep. Yeah. The
Oh, I
legend's down
see
at
it.
the
Never
bottom.
mind. I see it. Yeah. Now I see it.
Okay.
Earlier when I looked, I didn't see it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it's also interesting to see that the vast majority of the speed restrictions, actually all of them on the above ground Riverside line, were all 11 to 24. Very few that were 10 mile an hour below. But on the trunk part, the green line trunk from almost some of the above ground B and C all the way through the underground green line, lots and lots of 10 mile an hour, really serious 10 or lower, and they're all gone. I mean, all except for maybe two or three now, but like I said, between Government Center and Haymarket, really spectacular. I mean, I'll just say, in my opinion, the people working on this project should be um, applauded for this. And I'm sure they are. I'm sure they
Yeah.
are.
Well, and let's keep in mind
Hey,
though, that
I'll jump in there where I like to be fair both directions. I like to be critical when I feel it's right to be critical, and I like to give praise where it's praise. There has been a huge amount done on this track replacement, and I think it's I think there were some rough early days of it. If you go back to the kind of the first track replacement they did for the orange line, I think the number of slow days they had after that. I think they didn't set expectations right. People kind of thought, if you remember those days, that like they would do the work and then magically the next day it would all be magically fixed. And I think they figured out the right formula, and they pivoted, and they've really aggressively gone at it. And I actually really appreciate just the full, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. We're going to close this line for 3 weeks. That's what it takes to do it. So, and I think it's finally bearing fruit. So I'll give credit where credit's due and say I'm thrilled that almost all the lines are back to where they need to be, and in some cases, even better than they were before.
and I would say we should keep in mind too that the state and the feds put up a lot of money to make this happen. Because this costs a lot. And it's not like this couldn't have been done earlier. There just was the financial support. I won't say political support, certainly not the management support to do it. And but we just need to keep in mind that this costs a lot of money, and the state and the feds put up a lot to make it happen. A lot of the federal money came as a result of, I think ARPA and BIL, and maybe some extra money on top of that. But the state kicked in a whole lot of money, so it takes money to keep the system up. And hopefully, they can find a way to maintain it, so that we don't have to outlay the additional funds, that we had to for the substantial shuttles. That's it.
That's a great point. Yep, exactly right. Okay, two more slides. Just this is more of a just lines of text. What's coming up? We're already past the majority of the October work, talking about what's left on the orange line, the red line. I didn't realize that there are proposed early December, actually early to mid-December diversions on the green line. I haven't heard if they're finalized yet, but diversion limits Medford Square all the way into Park Street. But as we saw on the slide with the map, that's pretty much where the only remaining slow zones are on the green line, is in that up north of Park Street, or I guess that's Railroad East of Park Street. So certainly, if the proposed plan is to diversions Medford Park Street, I'm expecting that would target those final areas. And then Orange Line service impacts. This is almost all wrapped up. I'm not going to spend any time on this. I guess it's worth pointing out that this is a very impressive graphic with a lot packed in here. It's almost too complicated, but I can't imagine how else one would do an infographic with all of this other than 3, 4 different images. Packing all this into one, we're talking about regular service, alternate service, commuter rail, shuttle service. It's closed here. Here's a shuttle stop. I think best you can do. And if it's a complicated graphic, at least they've got customer service for people to call and ask questions. And then finally, yeah, what to expect during construction, mitigating noise levels, etc. So I think that's it for those slides from that virtual presentation on the track work.
Well, one other thing before you talk about, I thought you were talking about the meeting that we were at, regarding, that new access point, in Cambridge.
Oh,
That's what I thought.
you're absolutely right. Yeah. Do
Okay.
you want to summarize that? Because
Well, no, I
worth
don't.
it.
So if you want to, that's fine. I just wanted to add one other from another deck, This was the
Please.
general manager's report. There was an interesting thing that I hadn't noticed at the that I hadn't noticed before our last meeting, and they mentioned that the income eligible reduced fares, these are the more affordable fares. The applications are exceeding expectations. So that's all they say. It'll be interesting to see by how much they are exceeding expectations. Because clearly that's going to have budgetary impact. But it's interesting to see the demand that's there. That is exceeding expectations. But like I said, it'll be good to see, by how much they are. So hopefully, the budget, and audit subcommittee will meet in November, and we'll get a handle on that. So that's all. That's all I wanted to point out.
That's great. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
sure. So now, if you want to talk about the access point, that meeting that we attended, you know,
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I thought you and I had both been in the track work meeting. No, you and I were both in the meeting about the upcoming construction of of an access portal finally out at Alewife. I don't have any of the materials right at my fingertips, so I'll just summarize it.
yeah.
The idea is that a surface to underground red line ramp for trucks, materials, heavy equipment will be constructed just near, is it Barry Park? Don't quote me on
It's
that.
Danahy Park.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Just outside of uh, the current footprint of the Alewife area, it's going to be a slight impact to green space, and there's lots and lots of concern being mitigated. I mean, the asbestos in the ground is going to be mitigated with all kinds of state-of-the-art methods. Lots and lots of asbestos testing, air quality testing, noise monitoring. But again, the idea is that finally, when this project is done, there will be construction access to the north, the very northern end of the red line for the first time really ever. And it's going to allow materials and equipment to get in at Alewife to cover that area for construction, whereas right now the only access is right next to Kendall on the Longfellow Bridge. They open up the fence and the trucks and the vehicles and materials go into the tunnel at Kendall and then have to go all the way from Kendall up to Alewife for any heavy work. Insane amounts, not insane, sorry. I'll retract that. Unnecessary amounts of time spent, given that this portal, this access portal, can be done with really minimal impact on the neighborhood, other than during the construction for the noise and um, construction vehicle flow.
Can I just interrupt? I wish
Please, yeah, yeah,
Jonathan.
yeah, take over.
I wish Jonathan was here, because the question that just occurred to me is like, why didn't they build that access point when they built this? I think Wade waving his hand. Oh, think he's saying goodbye. Never mind. He's probably saying goodbye. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Well,
yeah. I kind of wondered why we didn't build that access point. When initially the system was built. You know what I mean? So because
I
it's not like they didn't know that we're gonna have to do maintenance. But anyways,
Yeah, well, I thought that the design idea, maybe not the drawn up plans, but I thought the design idea for the red line extension through Arlington, Lexington, even up to Bedford was all above ground, very much similar to how the red line is south of Andrew. And so if
no,
that was the case, then
no, no, it wasn't
truck,
above ground.
no,
No, no, no. It was going to be cut and cover along the rail way that is now the Minuteman Bikeway.
cut and cover,
Yeah, it's going to be cut and cover
but all underground.
all underground. Yes, because that's the
I didn't know
definition of
that.
cut and cover, right?
Well, right. Yes.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
problem. So, no
Okay.
problem.
Fair enough.
No
Um,
problem.
okay. Huh.
Yeah. So it's all gonna be underground. And even let's say they had planned on it being above ground, they would still have to service the part that's underground, so
Yes.
so unless you're saying though that by virtue of coming up from underground, they would automatically have a place to enter. Then okay, I see your argument there, But you know what? I mean, things didn't go as expected, and even like 40 years ago, we have to like pivot, to go okay. We're not going to get that, but we need an access point. Why don't we design in that access point? But maybe they ran out of time, or maybe it was a cost thing. I don't know, but you'd just be curious
Yeah,
to know. And if anyone would know, kind of off their head, it would be Jonathan. So
that
so
is true.
I'm going to behave like Trump did me in 2016. Jonathan, if you hear me, you now know the question I wanted to answer to me. Send me the answer as soon as you can. But there's no rush. We can wait until 2 weeks from now. Thank you.
Very good.
Hey, on that access tunnel, do we know if there's any other benefit? So other than useful for construction and useful for kind of, is there any other thing long term that yeah, and any and I don't know enough about it to. I'm just trying to think if you're building a tunnel, you'd want to get as much usage out of it as possible.
No, there are no other benefits from it. Yeah, no other benefits.
Like
One thing they
if they
did.
ever extend, like as an example, if they ever extended alewife beyond alewife, would this be a could they utilize would this utilize that?
No, it wouldn't. And I know that they are thinking about doing something, on the let me think. Oh, they are planning on doing like a big development there. And there's some thought, that the big development may include a connection, to the Fitchburg line. But this tunnel wouldn't have any impact on that either, because people were saying, well, we know you want to do a big development at that Alewife garage. Can't you just wait? And do this all as part of one big package? And they pretty much said, no, this is independent. It's I don't think they said it won't be have that the design of the Alewife garage wouldn't have any impact. Meaning that it would be impossible for it to have any impact. I'm sure you can design anything to have an impact, but they weren't factoring that in at all. So the short answer is no, Craig. But they did say that this project would pay for itself in 3 years just by virtue of the cost that they save from being able to do work faster, and with fewer shutdowns. That's it.
Yeah, and they were quite adamant about paying for itself. I had forgotten that. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for mentioning that, Len.
yeah,
Yeah, the because of the incredible amount of time and effort that it takes to get everything in at just outside of Kendall and then trundle all the way up to Alewife or anywhere, even any of that area. Yeah, the payoff is going to be huge.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and they're in the early phases of this. There's still a lot of design, to be done. There are members of the community, that were upset because they felt that they, were just getting notice of this. But this was kind of like a technical thing that they had to do, in order to start the next phase of the project. But that there, is still lots of time for community input with respect to, design and other things the community would care about, but they were very responsive, to the concerns, of the community. And there was an added component because there's been a big development, in that area. And people, I I think people had thought this is going to be it. This is all the work that's going to be done, in this area. I guess they've had to endure a lot of noise, and some inconvenience, due to this big development. And now the T comes along, and it's like it wants to do more work. And also the previous, the previous slash current development that's in the way, they did a mitigation, that kind of like contained the whole area, so that there was absolutely no chance of any contaminants getting out. And the T isn't going to do that kind of enclosure, but the T is very confident, that they, will have no exposure as a result of the way they're doing it. So that's that. You know,
Yep. Yeah, and there's in the the meeting page, Craig. If you want to go back to it, if you come back to the YouTube recording, I put the link to the event that Len and I attended into YouTube, and it'll be in the Zoom notes as well. They've got a lot of detail about the sampling sites for asbestos, the proximity to the neighborhood, cross sections showing some of the soil conditions. I
So,
can't seem to make this any bigger right now, but that's okay.
so Craig, when I'm sorry, not Craig. I mean, when was this meeting that you attended regarding the diversions?
Oh, that about the track work was
I'm not
Tuesday,
seeing.
October 1st.
Oh, okay, that far back. I got you. Okay, okay, I see it. Okay, fine, fine. Cool. Well, it's good to see they did that kind of a meeting. The reason that wasn't on my radar is that so the MBTA presents me to some members of the advisory board, once a month on the diversions, and we get an update there. I mean, I didn't realize that they were doing one for the public, which is good. It's really good. So excellent.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Um, how do you feel about me? Hey, we're back on schedule for the agenda as published. Um, shall we go into my little demo of the North Station wayfinding?
Yeah,
uh,
let's do that, and we'll stay on track for wrap by 6:30.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
10 by 6:30. And I think Craig actually heard a lot of it, right? Craig, you came in early. You heard a lot of it already.
I did actually. I heard it speaking, and I heard you kind of talking through visually what you're saying. So
Yeah. So
Yep.
he
Well, this
may
is
have. Good. Well,
go
you,
ahead.
you
No,
cover
after
as
you.
much as Craig wants, and then. So this show is for you, Craig. So when you've gotten enough, we can stop.
Oh yeah, well, it's not so much a demo as for us to be able to see and comment on this experience. It's this is more like an evaluation than for an oversight as our role is more than
Okay.
just a demo to you guys. But okay, so the quick recap is that at very least at North Station throughout the waiting area and on the platforms are these, and I'll hold one up to the camera, these color-coded, um, two-dimensional, uh, black surrounding multiple cubes of color, kind of like a barcode, kind of like a QR code in a way, except that it's color, which, if I understand it right, allows for a greater amount of data to be, or a greater amount of coding to happen with the larger, shall we say, blocks. I
Yeah.
mean, unlike a QR code where you've just got black or white, and you have to pack in a lot of a lot of those into a small space, just
Right.
black or white.
Yeah.
When you've got color components to it, that allows you more uh, options for coding with fewer blocks.
Yes.
And my understanding is that the larger the blocks are, the more visible they are, the more readable they are from a
Right.
longer distance.
Right.
So we have a format that is inherently able to be seen and read and decoded from farther away than a regular QR code.
Yeah.
Now, when you load the app, the contrast here, because it's gotten dark, it's going to be a little bit tough, but we'll see if we can do this. When you open up the app, you're immediately looking at your camera view facing forward, and nothing really happens until you come in sight of one of these markers. I'm going to turn off my zoom filtering. So now that my zoom filtering is off, if there's any cars going by or any sirens outside, you'll probably hear them. And so I'm going to do my best to show my phone and then at the same time hold up. And there we have it. The app has just read this color coded card and it has said, oh, here's where you are. You're at North Station Commuter Rail, and it has even pulled up the next trains with destinations and their track assignments. So from one read of a color squared printed and mounted sign, I'm getting next trains outbound on this track, track to be TBD, track TBD, and it's also able to tell me using the other app. This is more for wayfinding. So the first one I just showed you was like the live information about service. This is the other app, and you can hear kind of a sonar-like pinging, which is telling a visually impaired rider that it's live. And when I hold up this color-coded card,
34 inches away, access to tracks 9 and 10. Platform 9 is on the right. Platform 10 is on the left.
So the app has read out to me what this marker indicates, the track number, the orientation, but because this printout or this sign is a known dimension.
25 inches away, access to tracks 9 and 10. Platform 9 is on the right. Platform 10 is on the left. 31 inches away.
You can hear
access to tracks 9 and 10. Platform 9 is on the right. Platform 10 is on the left. 6 feet.
You can't tell,
9
Craig,
feet.
but I'm moving the printout of this card further away, simulating me walking away from it.
9 feet away.
So,
access to tracks 9 and 10. Platform 9 is on the right. Platform 10 is on the left.
and as I move it closer
4
again,
feet away.
4 feet
access
away.
to tracks 9 and 10. Platform 9 is on the right. Platform 10 is on the left.
If I get close again, it'll say, one more time, I think you heard
20
that.
inches away.
20 inches
access
away.
To tracks
Yeah.
9 and 10.
So
Platform 9 is on the right. Platform 10 is on the left.
So the app can tell you how far you are away from that marker, which then guides you through. Now, it's one thing to get static information like, well, you're right in front of track 9 and track 10. Okay. Just adjacent to that first marker is this second one. And I'm going to hold it up to my zoom camera so you can see, probably. This is the destination sign, or one of the destination signs at North Station. You can see there's that other coded marker right above it, right above the destination sign. Well, when I hold my phone up to this particular one,
43 feet away. North Station Departures Board. Next departures. Lowell line schedules at 6:20 p.m. on track 6. Fitchburg line schedules at 6:30 p.m. track to be decided. Newburyport Rockport line schedules at 6:40 p.m. track to be decided. Haverhill line
and I'll pause it there, but the point is, the app read that marker. Not only did it get a location for where the marker is, but it also is coded to read the live data feed of the departures coming up, including now boarding. So this app is spectacular because, again, not only an absolute position relative to that marker, but also integrating in a live
feet away.
feed.
24 feet away. North Station Departures Board. Next departures. Fitchburg line schedules at 6:30 p.m. track to be decided.
And then as a final, go ahead.
Well, are you going to play the sonar sound again?
Yeah, I'm going to do one more thing, which
Okay,
is the virtual navigation.
Sure.
Which is simply that because most smartphones, I think all smartphones these days, have compasses and accelerometers, the app takes advantage of that to know the orientation of the phone relative to this marker. So this is going to be kind of hard to demo, but I'm not sure if you can see without the contrast working, but there is a augmented reality arrow being drawn on my phone screen over me, over the environment where I am. And I
4 feet.
as I turn
On your
away,
right.
as I turn the
Ahead.
phone,
On your right.
the phone and the app knows that I have just turned the phone to the left of the marker. And so the app is reading to me that the marker is now on my right. If I bring it ahead,
3 feet.
3 feet ahead, if I turn the phone to the left,
On your left.
to the right, I mean, the phone is now telling me that I have
Ahead.
ahead is when it's straight on
your left.
On my left. And you can't really see the arrow, but the arrow is dynamic and
Ahead.
is always the arrow is always pointing in the direction of the marker
on your right
from where the marker was last seen. And that's done here's this shows up. Yeah. So that arrow is constantly being evaluated against the compass and the accelerometers relative to the last time that the app read that marker. So it's real, true, augmented reality, not only absolute positioning when you're right at one of these markers, but relative positioning so that as you are moving around and you're not in sight of one of these markers, you still get assistance. I mean, I am blown away by this. I think this is using every available piece of a technical feature in the smartphone that I have. This is not even a new iPhone. This is an iPhone 12, but it can still do the positioning, rotation and space, augmented reality, the live feed of the departure board. Absolutely unexpected. I expected this only to tell me, oh, you're in front of track 9 and 10. Great. It tells me the departures. I mean, I'm probably overlooking additional features. Oh, right, yeah. The pinging sound varies based on your distance away. So if you have, if you've got that pinging, you know when you're getting closer, it pings faster. Farther away, it pings slower. I mean, I'm beside myself with appreciation and I want to say almost amazement. You can bookmark these. You can share and back up particular locations. There's Siri shortcuts. It integrates with the speech dictation on the phone. And apparently it's all free. Yeah, it's called Navilens and Navilens Go, by the way.
Oh, interesting. I was trying to find out more about maybe the origin of it, like where it came from, who's behind it. Yeah. So
yeah, I have to admit I haven't done that myself.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe the RTAC, I mean the Regional Transportation Access Group, I mean is that what they're called? And what's behind it? And what exactly are they called? It's RTAG. And scrolling back up to the top. No, it's Rider Transportation Access Group. And so
okay.
they're interesting. They're an interesting group. I mean, the email address for them is bostoncell.org. I mean, so Boston, Community or Center for Independent Living. I was reading their MOU. They're an interesting group. So I was wondering if they were maybe behind this. I mean, they have meetings. It seems like like not every month. I mean, every 2 to 3 months. I mean, there's no agenda listed. So it's hard to tell what they talked about in any given meeting, but it seems like their meetings are recorded on YouTube. But it might be interesting to check in with them and find out if they know anything. It might be interesting just to check in with them, see how things are going. I mean,
yeah.
Just see how things are going. Because it's for access to those with disabilities and older folks. So they are serving a good role, a good function. So maybe find out when their next meeting is going to be, and again, pop in, see, because I think their meetings are virtual, so it'd be easy enough to pop in.
Yeah.
So,
I actually just noticed that there was a pop-up, well, they're calling it a pop-up demonstration at North Station. That's kind of horrible contrast, but there were August 30th, September 17th, September 26th sessions at North Station for demonstrations.
oh, so this is a Keolis project. Ooh, okay.
In
Yeah, no, and that all tracks now. So, Navilens is a European company,
All right.
and it's an extensive use over in Europe. So and so Navilens and there may be a parent company above Navilens, but Navilens is a Spanish-based company that makes this product. They came up with that kind of that funky QR code with the multicolors is their kind of invention, right? So
Nice.
their branding material says 12 times faster than the QR barcode, wider angle to read. Like that's all in their kind of corporate branding if you read through their branding. And so they're in. I just googled it. I'm looking at navilens.com.
Okay, all
right. They have partnerships with, and partnerships, I'm sure this is where they actually make their money. It looks like with some like big brands. From the look of the brands here, it looks like I mean, there's Coca-Cola, there's some of the Procter and Gamble brands where they actually put that Navilens product, that barcode. They're actually putting on like cereal boxes and boxes of Coca-Cola as well. So this is the company, right? So so it would not surprise me if Keolis has done this in other places before, and now they're trying it out in North Station to see if it works in North Station.
Yeah, all the more reason maybe to reach out to Keolis and touch base with them. So maybe we can, maybe we can reach out to them for November. How do you feel about that, Stefan?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So,
and I have to say thank you, Craig, for reminding us that we can Google for this stuff. I hadn't done it before.
Yeah, it was challenging. Navilens.com.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say
really,
that
really hidden.
Yeah. Well,
I know you. It wasn't developed in house, so we should probably just get rid of it.
Funny. Oh, I have to say the features that they list,
maybe the T should buy the $1 billion company for the one
right.
for the one.
The features that they have here do actually mesh with what I saw. I mean, 12 times faster. Oh, sorry, 12 times farther than a QR barcode.
Yeah, but you're just regurgitating what's on their corporate website.
Oh yes, but I mean that's pretty much what I experienced. I mean, 12 times farther. Yeah, that's what I experienced in North Station and just playing around. I didn't tell you these printouts that I
12
have.
12 times farther than what though?
Oh, then a QR code.
No, QR code.
Because
you put a QR code next to it and tested the two, and you counted out the paces and said it was 12 times.
Okay, yeah, I get your point.
You don't.
So well.
Okay,
so
we'll just say
the point is it's cool technology. I applaud Keolis for trying to roll it out in a new location. I think the interesting thing will be is whether or not. What I don't know is whether that particular app and whether that particular product Navilens is popular with the U.S. market, right? So it may be familiar to Keolis and may be really popular with a community of users over in Europe, but if the disabled community here uses some other branded, then it's just another. It may just be another. They may shun having another app that's specific to just North Station, just to when I take the commuter rail. And I could be wrong. Like I'd rather try this than not try this. But I think the proof. you get half credit for doing it, and then you get the other credit if people actually use it, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's why we actually talked to Keolis and to the RTAG folks. It'd be interesting to see if the RTAG folks even know about it. Um,
yep.
so it's
Well,
six
I
thirty.
did.
Go ahead.
Yep. Sorry, just one last thing on that because I did catch that the rollout is already at Salem and North Station.
Hmm.
And the press release says we'll soon add Lynn, Chelsea, and Swampscott and Beverly. And if my
Nice.
math is right, that's a total of 6 stations all along Newburyport Rockport.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they're doing it only on one line because that way they can focus their customer service efforts on that, or they've trained up crew on that. I mean, it does seem to make sense that they would focus it on one line. Um, hmm.
I mean, I don't know the rationale. I mean,
Yeah.
if I had to guess a rationale for doing Salem, I mean, next is that they're trying to get it in place, I mean, for the Halloween crew, I mean, crowds, I mean, but once again, I don't know to what extent it's advertised in the stations. I mean, so
Yep.
how did you become aware of it at North Station, Stefan?
I, being a very curious guy, saw it up
Okay,
on the wall,
okay, so it
just
wasn't
like
that.
this photo,
So
and
it wasn't
nope, I
advertised. There was nothing.
I did not see anything advertising it. I
Okay,
just simply saw the sign and
okay,
I went up to it, and there is a QR code
right,
to download the app right on the marker sign.
right,
So from me walking up to it saying, "What's this?"
right.
Oh, QR code, to me
Gotcha.
having the app and running the app
Yeah,
was
yeah.
45 seconds to a minute.
Right. Okay, so there was
Yeah.
no advertisement or notice about it there, So it's 6:30. I just want to say one other thing that's important,
Yeah.
but not sure where to go from it with it now. Just to hope that we find out more about it. So, of course, condolences to the person's family. That was the guy that was killed in
Yes.
at Forest Hills.
Absolutely.
And it seems like a particularly rough situation because it seems like he had a walk signal at the same time, meaning that
Yep.
the bus had a green. And there are a number of those intersections. And I think the rationale for having those kind of intersections is that it uh, it it kind of makes traffic work better. That way, because there's one of those intersections. At Central Square in Cambridge. At Prospect and Mass Ave. And I
Yes.
remember like complaining about that one, and it was explained to me that he it would just hurt the flow of traffic. To put an cross
Always
signal,
stop. Yep.
always stop there, and I can't
Yes.
remember I'm doing a disservice to the explanation because my explanation, is kind of weak, but it was explained to me in a better way that made me go, okay, I get it, and so I think the deal, I guess what I was more concerned about was that instead of being concerned about pedestrians, actually, I was thinking that the buses can't turn quickly because they're stopped waiting for people to cross. And that's a pretty dense part of Cambridge. And more than half of the cycle at certain times of the day is just waiting for people to cross the intersection. So traffic gets backed up. And when you're like on the 70, trying to get to Central Square, you're kind of like stuck in like a 3 block area for the better part of 5 minutes because the bus is getting hung up on that light. And so the explanation to me was that if you created a all cross phase, it wouldn't make traffic the right turn there much faster. So you bang for your buck wasn't really worth it. So that's explanation. But now I think if the other rationale for having it is that it's just safer. That becomes like a different reason for doing it. And so look, we don't know. What really happened. Someone I think knows more because I think they shut down that area. I mean, for several hours trying to reconstruct. I mean, so
Yep.
hopefully we'll find out.
Yep.
More about what happened, and
Yep.
that we'll put measures in place to make it better. And by we, I really mean BTD, Boston Transportation Department, because I
Yep.
think, to the extent anything can be done with that light, that would be good. And certainly, we certainly hope that the driver isn't at fault. But even if the driver isn't at fault, I'm sure it's very traumatizing. To the driver,
Yes.
and probably even passengers on the bus. And for that reason, in addition to just the safety of pedestrians, if we can just do something to reduce the chances, even if it does decrease the flow of traffic, would be worth doing. But I say that hesitatingly, but just something that's on
I
my
understand.
mind.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well said.
thanks very much for bringing it up. That was on my mind earlier this week, and I meant to, as a oversight committee, that's probably it's one of the more depressing aspects of the job, but something that I think we do need to be mindful of. So maybe I don't have anything more to add than what you just said. So maybe as we wait for maybe we can take this up with Jonathan next time we see him, because he usually has some beat onto some of these kind of the findings. So
Right.
that would be
Yeah.
my suggestion moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, another downer, but
No,
it is the
it's important.
reality.
It's important, and I'm particularly glad that you mentioned the impact on the operator. I'm very friendly with a whole bunch of commuter rail railroad people, and many of them have been involved with fatalities on commuter rail, and they every one of them says that in their opinions the ridership doesn't know the toll it takes on the crew, on the I'll speak a little generally, the bus operator, the transit operator, the commuter rail engineer, the commuter rail conductor.
No, of course.
Yeah, if I understand it right, the Federal Railroad Administration and or Keolis mandate several days off for any commuter rail crew member who's involved in a fatality. They mandate it. No,
Right.
You will take time off. They
Right.
offer counseling.
Right.
It's horrific.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's rough. I don't know if there are any passengers on the bus. I think of myself as being a passenger on the bus. It's like, that'd be traumatic for me, just as a passenger. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. And so anyways, so we don't know, so we don't want to rush to any conclusions and then solutions based on rushed conclusions,
Exactly.
But,
one question that I do want to ask, though, go ahead, Greg.
I'm going to let you go. No, I'm just going to try to wrap us up. That's all.
Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just want to raise one question just about the safety and efficacy of walk signals, and that is simply, if I'm not mistaken, walk signals do not give you any indication of whether or not you have exclusive right of way to make that crossing. So in other words, the walk signals are all don't walk or walk. Okay, there's a countdown on a lot of them, the electronic. Okay, you've got 20 seconds to finish crossing, or if you feel bold, you've got 20 seconds to start crossing if you make it across. But as far as it's red, it's white. It's don't do it or do it. I don't think that I don't know if there would be any way to build in to a walk signal an additional kind of an indicator that, oh hey, you on this crosswalk do not have the exclusive access to this. There might be vehicles turning even though you've got the walk signal. And I hope that didn't factor into it, that the poor person made some kind of assumption, and I am not casting aspersions on the person at all. I'm just hoping if there's an accident and an injury or a fatality in a crosswalk when somebody has the walk light, could it be that the poor person had a false sense of security expecting that, oh, well, I've got the walk light, therefore I can just walk right across and I don't have to pay attention to my surroundings.
Well,
That would be horrible.
I think
That'd
that's
be horrible.
generally the assumption with the walk signal is that that
Yeah.
you have the complete right of way. Look,
Oh, okay.
just by definition, right? An
Yep.
intersection means that something can come
Yes.
into the path that you're crossing. That's just the nature of an intersection. And
Yes.
so physically it's not exclusive unless you put a barrier there. Which now I'm
Yeah.
crossing modes of transportation, which you try to do with trains. They put a barrier so that you can't even
Oh,
go
right.
through it. There are no
Right.
barriers. No physical barriers. In street intersections. And so
Good
yeah.
point. Yeah. So nothing. Yeah, that's true. It's just a visual indicator.
Right.
But
But
I am worried about a sense of complacency if people have that expectation that I've got the walk light.
No,
I
I,
can
I,
just go.
I think people do have that
yeah, they do.
expectation,
They
right?
do.
And
They
they
do.
do. They
Okay.
Yeah.
like as soon as you step into it, regardless of whether there's a light there or not, as soon as you step into the crosswalk, now you're not
Right.
supposed to, right? You're not like if you don't have the red, you're not supposed to go play
Right.
Frogger. But human always trumps car, right? In terms of it's
Right.
on the car to stop.
It's on the car to stop.
If you're a moron and try to run across, it's still on the car to stop. You can't run
Yeah,
over the person
right.
and say, "Hey, I was within my rights to blow
Yeah.
through."
Yeah.
My guess is this person hung a right on a red, and when you're doing that, you're supposed to yield to whoever's in the intersection. But why don't we table it and see if we get more details on the accident report?
Yep.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
I think
Definitely.
the correct history technically, I think he hung it right on a grain. So because I think the deal was that there was a walk signal and a grain.
Oh, right. So yes,
Yeah, which makes
right.
it,
Yeah, which is
right. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Just to correct you on important
no.
details.
That makes sense, and
Right.
that's going to happen a million places, right?
Right. Oh yeah. As long as you don't have exclusive.
It happens anywhere that doesn't have a four-way stop, and there's a
Right.
gazillion intersections that don't have. Like a lot of intersections would grind to a halt if you had them do four-way stops everywhere.
Right. All right. Well, that's it. So,
All right.
So take care,
Yep.
folks.
We'll talk to you in November. Be well.
Yep.
Bye.
I'm gonna make a quick eyeball. Nobody is watching on YouTube. There's no other comments, and it's just you and me at this point, Len. So yeah,
All right.
let us adjourn. Thank you very much,
Yeah, you're welcome.
and
Take care.
thank you everyone for watching on YouTube later.
Yeah, it'll be it'll be after the election when we meet again.
Exactly.
Who knows what our world will be like then? Hopefully we'll have a decision by then. We'll see. So, anyways.
Exactly.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Okay.